In a freezing December of 1386, thousands of Parisians crowded into the jousting arena outside the Abbey of Saint-Martin-des-Champs. Their breath fogged the icy air as the crowd roared in anticipation. Before them stood two knights in gleaming armor, Jean de Carrouges, a seasoned warrior hardened by battles in Normandy, and Jacques Le Gris, a cunning courtier renowned for his wit and charm. But this was no mere contest of chivalry. The stakes were life and death. In a trial by combat sanctioned by the French king, Charles VI, these men would fight to determine not just their own fates, but the truth of a horrific accusation. Marguerite de Carrouges, Jean's wife, had accused Jacques of a heinous crime, violating her honor in her husband's absence. If Jean lost, Marguerite's life, along with his own, would be forfeit. This was the last officially recognized judicial duel in French history, a brutal collision of law, honor, and medieval superstition. To understand how two men found themselves on the brink of such a desperate fight, we must rewind a decade earlier. Jean de Carrouges and Jacques Le Gris had once been comrades, serving under the powerful Count Pierre d'Alençon. Jean, a warrior of modest means, had earned his reputation on the battlefield. Le Gris, though less martial, rose swiftly through the ranks as the Count's trusted administrator. Despite their differing talents, the two men enjoyed mutual respect, until envy, ambition, and a personal feud tore them apart. The trouble began with land. Jean believed that Count Pierre had unjustly awarded a valuable estate, a prize Jean had coveted for years, to Le Gris. This grievance festered into open hostility, compounded by Jean's perception that Jacques was manipulating the Count to undermine him. When Marguerite entered the story, the tensions reached a boiling point. Marguerite de Carrouges was known for her beauty and intelligence, qualities that had made her the pride of her husband, but also, according to her testimony, the target of Le Gris' obsession. In early 1386, while Jean was away on a military campaign, Marguerite claimed that Jacques, with the aid of an accomplice, forced his way into her home and violated her. When Jean returned, Marguerite's account set off a chain of events that would lead to the duel. In medieval France, accusations of this nature were as perilous for the victim as for the accused. Marguerite's credibility was immediately scrutinized. Many whispered that she had fabricated the story to explain an affair or cover her own shame. Others suggested that Jean had pushed her to make the accusation to settle his own vendetta against Le Gris. The legal system offered little solace. While trial by combat had become rare by the late 14th century, it remained an option in cases where evidence was insufficient and the honor of the parties was in question. For Jean, the duel was a chance to restore his family's tarnished honor and avenge his wife. For Le Gris, it was a desperate gamble to clear his name. Both men swore solemn oaths before the king, invoking divine judgment. As the day of the duel approached, Paris buzzed with anticipation. This was more than a legal proceeding. It was a spectacle, a test of divine will, and a reminder of the brutal justice that underpinned medieval society. Both combatants prepared meticulously. Jean, though older, relied on his battlefield experience and physical endurance. Le Gris, while less seasoned in combat, was no stranger to violence and had trained rigorously for the fight. On December 29, 1386, the arena was a cauldron of tension. Jean and Jacques took their places, armed with lances, swords, and daggers. The signal was given, and the duel began. The first clash was ferocious, with both men unhorsed within moments. What followed was a brutal melee as they fought on foot, their weapons ringing against steel and shields splintering under the force of their blows. Accounts of the duel describe it as a gruesome and exhausting affair. Jean's determination and battlefield experience gave him the edge. As the fight wore on, he managed to disarm Le Gris and force him to the ground. Straddling his opponent, Jean delivered the killing blow, plunging his dagger through Jacques' throat. The crowd erupted in a deafening roar. Jean de Carrouges stood victorious, his honor and Marguerite's testimony vindicated, at least in the eyes of the medieval world. For Marguerite, the outcome was not just a matter of honor but of survival. Had Jean lost, she would have been burned at the stake for bearing false witness. The duel of Jean de Carrouges and Jacques Le Gris remains one of the most infamous events of the Middle Ages, not just for its drama, but for what it reveals about the era. It was a time when justice was often brutal, and the line between law and violence was razor thin. This event marked the end of trial by combat in France, as the legal system evolved to rely less on divine judgment and more on evidence and reason. Thank you for watching this retelling of one of history's most dramatic and consequential duels. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to subscribe for more explorations of history's mysteries. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe justice was truly served that day? See you next time.